During the long, quiet months of the pandemic, when the world slowed down and people were left alone with their thoughts, she found herself doing something simple, but powerful. She started writing. At first, it was just a way to pass time. But then the hours stretched into nights, and nights into early mornings. Sometimes at 5 a.m., new ideas would suddenly arrive, one after another, like a door had quietly opened in her mind. That rhythm, restless, creative, searching, feels strangely connected to the life she has lived, because for years, she was something very different in the public eye. She was the dream. For a long time, Meg Ryan represented romance itself. She had the smile people trusted, the warmth audiences believed in, and a presence that made love stories feel real. Her hairstyle was copied everywhere. Her energy felt effortless. She wasn't just popular, she defined an entire era of romantic storytelling in Hollywood. And then, something shifted. When she reappeared years later, especially around 2023, the reaction was not what anyone expected. Instead of celebrating her return, people focused on how different she looked. Headlines turned harsh. Comments became cruel. Some even tried to reduce her entire life and career to speculation about her appearance. But that reaction only scratches the surface. To understand what really happened, you have to go much further back. Long before fame, before Hollywood, before the image that the world thought it knew. She was born Margaret Mary Emily Ann Hira on November 19, 1961, in Fairfield, Connecticut. Even her name tells a story. Ryan, the name the world would come to recognize, wasn't simply given. It was chosen, taken from her grandmother's side of the family. In a quiet way, it reflects something deeper about her life. Identity was never something fixed. It was something shaped, rebuilt, and redefined over time. Her childhood wasn't filled with fame or privilege. Both of her parents were teachers. Life was stable on the surface, grounded in ordinary routines. There was a small connection to creativity. Her mother had once acted, but nothing that guaranteed a path into Hollywood. And then everything changed. When she was 15, her parents divorced. At that age, life is already uncertain. You're trying to understand who you are, what love means, and what stability feels like. When a family breaks apart at that moment, it leaves a mark. Not always visible, but lasting. That quiet instability would later echo in ways people didn't always notice. She didn't set out to become a movie star. In fact, her original plan was far more practical. She studied journalism, first at the ESI University of Connecticut and then at New York University. It was a grounded path, something real and reliable. Acting came almost by accident. It wasn't a dream, it was a job. In the early 1980s, she started appearing in commercials. Small roles, simple work, ads for things like toothpaste and fast food. It wasn't glamorous, it was survival. But those early steps mattered. They kept her moving forward. Her first film appearance came quietly, in a small role that most people barely noticed. She wasn't introduced as a future star. She wasn't treated like someone special. She had to build everything slowly. Television gave her more visibility. On the soap opera As the World Turns, she worked in a fast, demanding environment that sharpened her skills quickly. But it also did something else. It started shaping how people saw her. She was placed into a familiar category: kind, emotional, relatable, the good girl. That label would follow her for years. In 1986, she appeared in Top Gun, surrounded by big stars, like Tom Cruise. Her role was small, but the film's massive success gave her something important: visibility on a much larger scale. And then slowly, everything began to change. By the late 1980s, she was starting to show more range. Films like Promised Land hinted that she could do more than just play charm and sweetness. The industry began to notice. But the real turning point came in 1989. When Harry Met Sally didn't just make her famous, it transformed her into something iconic. Starring alongside Billy Crystal, she delivered a performance that audiences instantly connected with. One scene in particular became unforgettable. It was bold, funny, awkward, and completely original. It captured something rare, a mix of vulnerability and confidence that felt both surprising and real. From that moment on, everything changed. She wasn't just an actress anymore. She became America's sweetheart. At first, that label seemed like a compliment, but over time, it became something else, a limitation. It turned a complex person into a simple idea. And once the industry finds an image that works, it rarely lets go. Throughout the 1990s, she became one of the most successful actresses in Hollywood. Films like Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail strengthened her place as the face of romance on screen. Her chemistry with Tom Hanks became legendary. Even when their characters were physically apart, audiences believed in the connection. That was her strength. She made emotion feel real, even at a distance. But success came with pressure. Behind the scenes, her personal life was far more complicated than the image suggested. Her marriage to Dennis Quaid looked perfect from the outside. But it wasn't. There were struggles, secrets, and pain that the public didn't fully see. When their relationship ended, it didn't happen quietly. It unfolded under intense media attention, turning private heartbreak into public spectacle. Headlines simplified the story. Blame was assigned. Reality was reduced to drama. And once that perfect image cracked, the reaction was harsh. Then came a career decision that changed everything again. In 2003, she took a role in The Cut, a dark, intense film that was completely different from anything she had done before. It challenged her image directly, but audiences weren't ready. The same people who once embraced her warmth struggled to accept something darker. The film didn't succeed in reshaping her career. Instead, it created distance between her and the audience. Around the same time, a tense interview with Michael Parkinson added to the negative attention. What should have been a simple promotion turned into an uncomfortable moment that stayed in public memory far longer than expected. Everything began to collide. Her image changed. The industry became uncertain about her. The audience pulled back, and instead of fighting to stay in the spotlight, she made a different choice. She stepped away. For years, she became less visible. Not completely gone, but no longer at the center. During that time, her life shifted in quieter ways. She became a mother again, adopting a daughter and focusing on family. She rebuilt her world outside the noise. When she eventually returned, it wasn't with a dramatic comeback. It was quieter, more controlled, more personal. In 2023, she came back with What Happens Later, a project she didn't just act in, but also helped create. It should have been a story about creative independence. Instead, much of the conversation focused on something else. Her face. The reaction revealed something deeper about the culture around her. It wasn't just about change. It was about expectation. The world had frozen her in time, holding on to the version of her from decades earlier. And when reality didn't match that memory, people reacted. But she didn't play along. She didn't explain. She didn't defend. She didn't try to fit back into the old image. She simply moved forward. Because the truth is, her story isn't about disappearing. It's about choosing. Choosing when to step back. Choosing when to return. Choosing how to exist outside of expectations. And maybe that's the most important part of all. She was never just the sweetheart people imagined. She was always something more. Something changing, something searching, something real. And now, instead of chasing the version the world remembers, she's finally living as the version she chooses to be.